Commander Mara Ashoka stared at the primary communication display in Perseus Station's central hub, her fingers tracing the usual patterns across the holographic interface. The station hummed with the constant flow of data, millions of transmissions passing through the relay systems every second. As the veteran communications officer of humanity's most advanced outpost, she had grown accustomed to the steady rhythm of Earth's interstellar conversations. "Status report," she requested, her voice calm but firm. Lieutenant Pavel Resnick, her executive officer, nodded and pulled up the daily metrics. Standard traffic patterns. Commander. Earth-to-colony transmissions at 96% capacity. Diplomatic channels operating at 83%. Commercial data streams steady at 91%. Mara nodded, satisfied with the numbers. Humanity's reputation across the galaxy was well established. They never shut up. From the moment Earth had made first contact with the Calarian Federation nearly 2 centuries ago, humans had flooded the galactic communications networks with an endless stream of transmissions. Music, entertainment, commercial transactions, diplomatic negotiations, scientific debates, personal messages. The sheer volume had initially overwhelmed the more reserved species of the Galactic Council. "Any complaints from the Council today?" Mara asked, knowing the answer before Pavel responded. 3 formal notices from the Valian hegemony about bandwidth usage in the Orion sector. Pavel replied with a slight smile. "And a passive-aggressive message from Secretary Torex about our enthusiastic participation in interspecies cultural exchange programs." Mara suppressed a chuckle. The Valians, with their sensitive auditory organs, had never adjusted to humanity's constant chatter. And Valen Torex, the Galactic Council's Secretary of Communications, made his disdain for human verbosity clear at every opportunity. "Send the standard reply to the Valians," she instructed, "and remind the Secretary that Article 7 of the Triad Accords guarantees equal access to communication resources for all member species." The uneasy détente between Earth and the older galactic civilizations had been maintained for decades through this constant exchange. What had begun as simple cultural differences had evolved into an essential component of interstellar relations. Human noise kept the peace, their ceaseless transmissions providing transparency that reassured nervous council members about humanity's rapid expansion. Mara moved to the observation deck, gazing out at the vast structure of Perseus Station. The sprawling complex served as the nexus for all human communications beyond the Sol system, its massive arrays capturing and redirecting signals to the 12 major colony systems and dozens of smaller outposts. Hundreds of technicians and officers worked around the clock, ensuring humanity's voice was heard across the stars. "Commander," Pavel called from his station, "Admiral Koslov is requesting your presence at the weekly security briefing." Mara acknowledged the message and made her way to the secure conference room. Admiral Alexei Koslov, military commander of Perseus Station, waited with his senior staff. "Commander Ashoka," he greeted her with a nod, "let's begin with your assessment of the current communication landscape." For the next hour, Mara detailed the state of human transmissions throughout known space. She highlighted several patterns that had emerged in recent months. Increased diplomatic exchanges with the reclusive Naxian Collective, rising commercial traffic with the resource-rich Borrelian systems, and a subtle shift in the tenor of official communications from Earth Central Command. "There's something different about the dispatches from Earth," she noted. "Nothing I can quantify, but the tone has changed, more measured, more deliberate." Admiral Koslov stroked his gray beard thoughtfully. "Intelligence has noted the same. Earth's civilian government has been unusually cohesive in its messaging lately. The usual political squabbling has diminished." "Should we be concerned?" asked Captain Sorensen, head of station security. "Monitor, but don't intervene," the Admiral replied. "Earth politics run in cycles. This may simply be a period of unusual consensus." As the meeting concluded, Mara returned to her quarters, unable to shake the feeling that something significant was shifting. She reviewed her personal messages, a brief note from her brother on Mars colony, updates from former classmates scattered across the colonies, an invitation to lecture at the academy next year. Ordinary communications, yet they felt weighted with unexpected meaning. She slept uneasily that night, dreaming of silence. The next morning, at precisely 07 galactic standard time, Mara was awakened by the station's emergency alert system. The harsh tone drove her instantly to full alertness, and she was pulling on her uniform before the automated message even began. All senior officers report to command immediately. Communication Emergency Protocol Alpha 9 initiated. This is not a drill. Mara rushed through the corridors, passing stunned-looking crew members and flashing emergency indicators. When she reached the command center, chaos greeted her. "Report!" she demanded, moving to her station where Pavel stood pale-faced before the main display. "Commander," he said, his voice unsteady. "At exactly 07, all transmissions from Earth ceased." Mara stared at the display in disbelief. The normally vibrant visualization of Earth's outgoing communications showed nothing. A flat, dead line where there should have been millions of data points. "System malfunction?" she asked, already running diagnostics. "Negative," Pavel replied. "We've checked all receiving systems. They're functioning perfectly. Earth has gone silent." Admiral Kozlov appeared at her side, his face grim. "Not just Earth, Luna Base, Mars Colony, the Jupiter stations. The entire Sol system has gone dark." "That's impossible," Mara whispered. "Even with catastrophic system failures, there would be emergency transmissions, automated distress signals." "There's nothing," Pavel confirmed. "No voice, no data, no automated traffic, complete silence." The implications were staggering. A communications blackout of this magnitude could only mean one thing to the rest of the galaxy. Humanity's homeworld had suffered some cataclysmic event. "Initiate emergency protocols," Admiral Kozlov ordered. "Send probe ships to the edge of the Sol system. Alert all colonial governments. And prepare a statement for the Galactic Council." As the command center erupted into coordinated activity, Mara focused on her primary responsibility, determining the extent of the communications failure. She dispatched diagnostic signals to every relay station between Perseus and Sol, looking for any break in the chain. "Commander," Pavel called, "we're receiving an urgent transmission from Triad Prime. The Council is requesting immediate clarification on the status of Earth." Of course they were. The sudden silence of humanity's homeworld would register across every monitoring station in Council space. The species that had complained endlessly about human noise would now be deeply unsettled by its absence. "Put it through to my station," Mara instructed. The holographic display shimmered, resolving into the elongated features of Secretary Valentorex. "Commander Ashoka." The Tridaxian's three-toned voice resonated with unusual tension. "The Council demands an explanation for the cessation of Earth transmissions." Mara maintained her professional composure, despite the alien's demanding tone. "Secretary Torex, we are investigating an unexpected communications anomaly affecting the Sol system. We have no further information at this time, but will update the Council as soon as we determine the cause." Torex's facial membranes fluttered in what Mara recognized as skepticism. "This anomaly coincides with unusual energy readings from your home system. The Council requires assurance that this is not a prelude to aggressive action." Mara's patience thinned. "Secretary, Earth has experienced a complete communications blackout. Our priority is determining the safety of billions of our citizens. I suggest the Council offer assistance rather than suspicion." The Tridaxian's membrane stiffened. "The Council will convene an emergency session to discuss this development. Your presence is required, Commander." The transmission ended before Mara could respond. She turned to find Admiral Kozlov watching her. "You'll have to go," he said. "We need someone at that session who can prevent panic or hasty action by the Council." "I should be here, Working on the communications problem, Mara protested. This is now a diplomatic crisis as much as a technical one, the Admiral countered. The Council must be managed carefully. You know their protocols better than anyone on this station. Reluctantly, Mara nodded. I'll prepare a shuttle. Pavel can continue the diagnostics in my absence. As she gathered the necessary materials for her journey to Triad Prime, Mara couldn't shake the growing suspicion that the silence from Earth was not a malfunction or disaster. The timing was too precise, the blackout too complete. This had the hallmarks of a coordinated action. But to what end? And why hadn't Earth Command warned Perseus Station of their intentions? The journey to Triad Prime, the artificial world that served as the Galactic Council's headquarters, took 16 hours in her diplomatic shuttle. Throughout the flight, Mara monitored the incoming data from Perseus Station. The silence had maintained absolute and unwavering. Probe ships reported no obvious signs of destruction or conflict in the outer Sol system, but had been instructed not to proceed further until authorized. More troubling were the reports beginning to filter in from the human colonies. Alpha Centauri, Tau Ceti, Epsilon Eridani, one by one. They reported losing all communication with Earth. Yet, unlike Perseus Station, which had experienced an instant blackout, the colonies described a gradual cessation, as if a wave of silence was spreading outward from Sol at the speed of light. Consistent with the travel time of standard transmissions, Mara muttered to herself. That suggested the silence had originated at Earth and was propagating normally through space, not the pattern expected if some catastrophe had destroyed Earth's communication infrastructure. When she arrived at Triad Prime, Mara was escorted directly to the council chamber. The vast circular room housed representatives from the 27 full-member species of the Galactic Council, plus observers from dozens of associate worlds. The architecture was deliberately intimidating. Soaring columns of polished stone supporting a dome that simulated the diverse home skies of each member race. Secretary Torex stood at the central podium, his tall form dominating the proceedings. Around the chamber, the representatives displayed varying degrees of concern, curiosity, and in some cases, poorly disguised satisfaction. Commander Ashoka of Earth, Torex announced, as Mara took her place at the human delegation station. You come before this council to explain the unprecedented cessation of transmissions from your homeworld. Mara stood straight, her voice clear and carrying to every corner of the chamber. Honored representatives, approximately 23 standard hours ago, all communications from the Sol system ceased without warning or explanation. We at Perseus Station are investigating the cause and have dispatched probe vessels to assess the situation. A ripple of murmurs spread through the chamber. The Valian representative, Minister Ket, rose from his seat. For 2 centuries, we have endured the constant barrage of human transmissions polluting the galactic communication networks. The avian being declared, his feathered crest rising with emotion. Now that blessed silence has finally fallen. You expect us to believe it is cause for concern, rather than celebration. Several representatives chittered or hummed in agreement, and Mara felt a flash of anger. The derision in the Valian's tone was unmistakable. Minister Ket, she replied evenly, regardless of your opinion on human communication patterns, the sudden silence of an entire star system with over 15 billion inhabitants should be cause for grave concern to all civilized beings. Perhaps, interjected the Borellian delegate, humans have finally learned the virtue of restraint that the rest of us practice. More laughter rippled through the chamber. But Mara noticed not all representatives joined in. The Calarian observer, sitting quietly in the upper tier, watched the proceedings with an expression of deep concern. Secretary Torex raised his 3-fingered hand for silence. Beyond the philosophical implications, this council must consider the practical consequences. Human communications have become integral to interstellar commerce and diplomacy. Many systems rely on Earth's data networks and transmission relays. A dependency we have warned against for decades, Minister Kett retorted. Perhaps this will prompt a return to more balanced communication protocols. The debate continued for hours, with various representatives expressing either concern or thinly veiled satisfaction at humanity's sudden silence. Throughout it all, Mara maintained her composure, providing what limited information she had, while emphasizing the potential danger to billions of human lives. When the session finally adjourned, Mara was approached by the Calarian observer, a tall, slender being with iridescent skin and large, thoughtful eyes. "Commander Ashoka," the Calarian said in a melodious voice. "I am Dr. Isha Noor, scientific liaison to the Council. Might I have a word in private?" Mara nodded, following the Calarian to a small antechamber off the main hall. Once the door sealed behind them, Dr. Noor's formal demeanor shifted to one of urgent concern. "Commander, the Council's response is dangerously complacent," she said without preamble. "I have been monitoring solar output and quantum field fluctuations throughout Council space. In the hours before Earth went silent, my instruments detected abnormal energy spikes emanating from your home system." Mara's attention sharpened. "What kind of energy spikes?" "Patterns consistent with massive power generation and redistribution," Dr. Noor explained. "Far beyond anything previously recorded from Earth or any Council world. I attempted to bring this information before the full Council, but Secretary Torex deemed it speculative and potentially alarmist." "You believe Earth's silence is deliberate," Mara stated, the suspicion she'd been harboring now spoken aloud. The Calarian's luminous eyes regarded her steadily. "I believe your people are preparing for something significant, Commander. The question is whether that preparation threatens the rest of the galaxy." Mara considered her response carefully. The Calarians had been humanity's first alien contact and remained their most reliable allies in Council space. If she could trust any non-human with her growing suspicions, it would be a Calarian. "I have no official information suggesting Earth's silence is strategic rather than catastrophic," she said finally. "But I share your concern about the pattern of the communications loss. It appears too orderly for a natural disaster or attack." Dr. Noor nodded slowly. "I will continue my observations and share any findings with you directly. The Council's dismissal of this matter is troubling." As Mara returned to her shuttle, a message waited from Perseus Station. Pavel's report confirmed what she had begun to suspect. The wave of silence was spreading through the colony networks in a precisely timed pattern. 6 hours after Earth went dark, Alpha Centauri fell silent. 6 hours after that, Tau Ceti. The progression matched exactly the light-speed travel time between systems. "This is coordinated," Mara whispered to herself. "But why weren't we at Perseus informed?" On the return journey, she reviewed everything she knew about Earth's recent political and military developments. The unified messaging from Earth Central Command, the increased diplomatic engagement with traditionally hostile species, the subtle redeployment of fleet assets to the outer colonies over the past 18 months. Earth was preparing for something, had been for some time, and now, in perfect synchronization, humanity had fallen silent across the stars. When Mara arrived back at Perseus Station, she found the situation had evolved rapidly. Colonial silence had spread to 8 major systems. More concerning were the reports of alien fleet movements near formerly human-controlled space. With Earth's voice suddenly absent, old rivalries were flaring between species that had relied on human mediation. "The Valians have moved a battle group into the disputed Proxima sector," Admiral Kozlov informed her as soon as she reached command. "The Borellian Mining Consortium has declared their contracts with human colonies suspended pending clarification of authority." "They're testing boundaries," Mara observed. "Seeing what they can get away with while Earth is distracted or incapacitated." "Precisely," the Admiral agreed grimly. "And we've received disturbing reports from our remaining active colonies. Many of our automated systems are operating with unexplained efficiency. Manufacturing facilities, agricultural complexes, even civilian infrastructure, all functioning without human oversight, some performing beyond their design parameters. Mara's brow furrowed. Self-optimization protocols? Perhaps, Koslov said, but implemented simultaneously across disparate systems. It suggests pre-programming, preparation. For what? The Admiral's expression was grave. That's what concerns me, Commander. Whatever Earth is preparing for, they didn't see fit to inform Perseus Station. We remain visible and vulnerable while the rest of humanity goes dark. Over the following weeks, the situation deteriorated further. As the wave of silence spread to the outermost human colonies, the power vacuum in Council space grew. Species that had coexisted peacefully under human mediation now found themselves in direct competition for resources and influence. The Valiant hegemony and the Borrelian consortium, longtime rivals for mineral-rich systems along their shared border, moved from diplomatic protests to armed confrontation. The Naxian collective, traditionally isolationist, began extending protective agreements to smaller species formerly under human security arrangements. The delicate balance maintained for generations was collapsing with breathtaking speed. Through it all, Perseus Station maintained its vigil, the last voice of humanity still broadcasting into the void. Mara divided her time between analyzing the spreading silence, managing increasingly tense communications with Council representatives, and trying to unravel Earth's strategy. We've intercepted unusual transmissions from the Sol system, Pavel reported one morning, 3 months into the crisis. The Sol system, a nominally human-controlled region with few permanent settlements, had gone silent with the rest of the colonies. What kind of transmissions? Mara asked, immediately alert. Brief encrypted bursts, not standard human protocols, but the encryption has human fingerprints. Mara leaned forward. Origin point? That's the strange part, Pavel said, pulling up a stellar map. They're coming from deep within the system's asteroid belt. No registered human outpost exists at those coordinates. Send the data to my secure terminal, Mara instructed. And Pavel, keep this between us for now. Later that night, alone in her quarters, Mara analyzed the mysterious transmissions. The encryption was indeed human in origin, but unlike any standard military or civilian code, after hours of work, she managed to partially decrypt a fragment. Operation Threshold proceeding as planned. Phase 2, completion at 82%. Admiral Suresh confirms fleet readiness at 97%. Awaiting final authorization for Phase 3 deployment. Mara sat back, her mind racing. Admiral Rajiv Suresh commanded Earth's 7th Fleet, ostensibly on extended patrol in the Outer Rim. Yet, according to Council intelligence, the 7th Fleet had not been observed in known space for over 8 months. Hidden fleet deployment, massive energy signatures from the Sol system, coordinated communications blackout, automated systems operating beyond parameters. Earth wasn't suffering a catastrophe. Earth was executing a plan of staggering scope and secrecy. Before Mara could decide how to proceed with this information, an urgent alert sounded. She rushed to command to find Admiral Kozlov coordinating an emergency response. The Valians and the Federation have opened fire on each other at the Proxima Gateway, he explained tersely. 17 ships destroyed in the initial exchange. Both sides are calling up reinforcements. Do we have assets in the region? Mara asked. 2 observation vessels. I've ordered them to maintain distance and record only. The conflict at Proxima escalated rapidly. Within days, what began as a border skirmish expanded into open warfare. Other species were drawn in, some by treaty obligation, others by opportunism. Systems that had known peace for generations became battlegrounds. Through it all, human space remained silent and untouched. The warring parties avoided human colonies and outposts, whether from residual respect or strategic caution. Perseus Station, still broadcasting, became an island of stability in a sea of chaos. 6 months into the silence, Dr. Aisha Noor arrived unannounced at Perseus Station, her research vessel requesting emergency docking. "The council has dissolved, Commander," she informed Mara as soon as they were alone. Secretary Torex attempted to impose emergency powers, but the Valian and Federation representatives withdrew their delegations. Without consensus, the entire structure collapsed. Mara absorbed this news grimly. The Galactic Council had stood for over a millennium, maintaining order among dozens of spacefaring civilizations. Its dissolution represented an unprecedented breakdown of interstellar governance. "I've continued my observations of the Sol system," Dr. Noor continued. "The energy signatures have stabilized at levels approximately 300% above pre-silence readings. Whatever Earth is powering, it's fully operational now." "Have you detected any transmissions?" Mara asked carefully, not revealing her knowledge of the Sol system communications. "Nothing conventional," the Calarian scientist replied. "But there are quantum-level disturbances consistent with theoretical faster-than-light communication systems. If Earth has perfected such technology..." She left the implication hanging. FTL communications would revolutionize interstellar relations, giving whoever controlled the technology an insurmountable advantage in coordination and response time. "Dr. Noor," Mara said after a moment of consideration, "I believe Earth is executing a strategic plan of unprecedented scale. The silence is deliberate, the automated efficiencies intentional. What I can't determine is the objective." The Calarian's luminous eyes studied her. "You've had suspicions from the beginning." "Growing certainty," Mara corrected. "But without direct confirmation from Earth Command. I've been cautious about sharing my analysis." "A wise precaution," Dr. Noor acknowledged. "But with the Council dissolved and interspecies conflict spreading, we may not have the luxury of caution much longer." Mara made a decision. "I need to show you something." She brought Dr. Noor to her secure office and displayed the partially decrypted transmission from the Sol system. The Calarian scientist studied it intently. "Operation Threshold," she murmured. "A rather ominous designation." "It suggests a transition point," Mara noted. "A boundary being crossed." "Or a limit being tested," Dr. Noor countered. "The question remains, what is the intended outcome of this operation?" Before they could discuss further, Pavel's voice came urgently through the communication system. "Commander Ashoka to command immediately. Priority Alpha." Mara and Dr. Noor rushed to the command center. The main display showed a strategic overview of Council space, now lit up with dozens of conflict zones. "The situation has deteriorated critically," Admiral Kozlov stated without preamble. "The Valian Federation war has spread to 14 systems. The Naxian Collective has activated its defensive pact with the Borrelian Consortium. Reports indicate that Tridaxians are mobilizing their reserve fleets." "Total war," Mara breathed, taking in the scope of the escalation. "Worse," the Admiral continued. "We're detecting massive fleet movements in the disputed territories. Forces that would normally be checked by human diplomatic intervention are now operating without restraint." Dr. Noor stepped forward. "Admiral, I believe Earth anticipated this outcome. The timing of their silence, the pattern of automated efficiency improvements. They're preparing for something significant." Kozlov turned his penetrating gaze on the Calarian scientist. "Dr. Noor, with respect, speculation about Earth's intentions does little to address our immediate crisis. Perseus Station remains the only functioning human outpost in an increasingly hostile galaxy." "Not the only one," Mara interjected. She quickly briefed the Admiral on the encrypted transmissions from the Sol system and her partial decryption. Kozlov's expression darkened. "You should have brought this to me immediately, Commander." "I needed to verify the information before presenting it," Mara replied firmly. "And given the compartmentalized nature of Operation Threshold, I wasn't certain who at Perseus might be part of the information restriction." The Admiral's lips tightened, but he nodded in acknowledgement of her reasoning. So, Earth has a hidden fleet in the Sol system, commanded by Admiral Suresh. To what end? I believe they're waiting, Dr. Noor suggested, allowing the interspecies conflicts to develop to some critical point before intervening. A dangerous gamble, Kozlov muttered. Every day this continues. More lives are lost, more systems devastated. Mara studied the strategic display, noting the patterns of conflict spreading across formerly peaceful sectors. An idea began to form in her mind, a disturbing one. What if that's the point? She said quietly. Both the Admiral and Dr. Noor turned to her. Explain, Kozlov demanded. For generations, humanity has been the mediator, the peacekeeper, Mara elaborated. We've intervened in countless disputes, prevented dozens of interspecies conflicts. The other civilizations came to rely on our diplomatic efforts, even while complaining about our methods. And now that we're silent, they fall upon each other like predators, Dr. Noor concluded, following her logic. Exactly, Mara confirmed. Earth may be demonstrating what happens when humanity steps back, creating an object lesson in our value to galactic stability. Admiral Kozlov considered this theory, his expression troubled. A dangerous demonstration, if true, and one that costs millions of innocent lives across multiple species. Unless, Dr. Noor suggested, the demonstration has a second phase, one that proves humanity can restore order as effectively as our absence destroyed it. The three of them stood in silence, contemplating the implications of Earth's possible strategy. If Mara's theory was correct, humanity was executing a plan of breathtaking audacity and moral ambiguity, allowing war to engulf the galaxy to prove their indispensability to peace. In the months that followed, their theory gained credibility as the interspecies conflicts intensified. Without human mediation, ancient grievances and territorial ambitions drove formerly peaceful civilizations into increasingly destructive confrontations. The Valiant Federation War expanded to engulf 17 systems. The Naxian-Borelian alliance fractured over resource allocation, leading to brutal skirmishes along their supply routes. The Tridaxians, once the administrative backbone of the Council, retreated to their core worlds, abandoning their role as neutral arbiters. Throughout it all, Perseus Station maintained its position and continued broadcasting, though few now listened to the lone human voice in the chaos. Mara, Admiral Kozlov, and Dr. Noor worked tirelessly to decode more transmissions from the Sol system, gradually piecing together fragments of Earth's master plan. Operation Threshold, Phase 3, authorization confirmed, fleet deployment schedule finalized, Colonel Patel's ground forces at full readiness, quantum communication network stability at 99.7%, all command nodes synchronized, final countdown protocols initiated, strategic assessment confirms optimal intervention point at T-47 days. Each decrypted fragment reinforced their theory while raising new questions. Who was Colonel Patel? What ground forces were prepared for deployment? And most crucially, when would Earth finally break its silence? The answer came exactly 3 years after the silence began. Mara was in her quarters, reviewing the latest conflict reports, when every communication device on Perseus Station simultaneously activated. Screens, holographic projectors, audio systems, all burst into life with the same message, broadcast in perfect clarity. This is Earth's central command to all sentient species of the galaxy. For 3 years, we have observed your descent into chaos without our mediation. For 3 years, we have allowed you to demonstrate your inability to maintain peace without human intervention. That demonstration is now complete. Mara rushed to command, finding the entire staff transfixed by the broadcast. On the main display, a dignified woman in the formal uniform of Earth's unified government addressed the galaxy with calm authority. The conflicts that have claimed millions of lives and devastated dozens of worlds will cease immediately. all hostile forces will stand down and withdraw to their pre-conflict territories. Those who comply will be welcomed as partners in the new galactic order. Those who resist will face swift and decisive intervention. Admiral Kozlov turned to Mara as the broadcast continued. They're actually doing it, declaring authority over the entire galaxy. Return to order or face oblivion. The Earth representative concluded, You have 6 hours to comply. The choice is yours. For a moment, after the transmission ended, silence reigned in the command center. Then reports began flooding in from across known space. The warring species had universally dismissed Earth's ultimatum, some with derision, others with outrage. None had taken the threat seriously. 6 hours later, they learned their mistake. In the Proxima sector, where the fiercest battle of the Valiant Federation War raged, a massive human fleet emerged seemingly from nowhere. Ships of unprecedented size and design, bearing Earth's insignia, materialized amidst the combatants. Before either side could react, precision weapons fire disabled the primary systems of every non-human vessel in the sector. Simultaneously, in 12 other major conflict zones, identical scenes played out. Human armadas appeared without warning, neutralizing the fighting forces of multiple species with surgical efficiency. The Sol system fleet, Mara realized, watching the tactical displays in awe. Admiral Suresh must have been building and training for this moment for years. On worlds where ground combat had devastated civilian populations, human forces deployed under the command of Colonel Amir Patel established immediate control. Unlike the space-based operations, which disabled rather than destroyed, the ground forces met resistance with overwhelming, lethal force. Within hours, reports filtered in of entire enemy battalions annihilated after refusing surrender terms. For 3 days, the pattern continued. Wherever conflict existed, human forces appeared with impossible coordination and overwhelming technological superiority. Species that had dismissed Earth's ultimatum found themselves utterly outmatched, their most advanced weapons useless against human defenses, their communications compromised, their strategies anticipated. On the 4th day, the Valiant hegemony became the first to formally surrender, accepting Earth's terms for cessation of hostilities. The Federation followed within hours. By the end of the week, every major power had capitulated, ending conflicts that had raged for 3 years. Earth's terms were non-negotiable but surprisingly moderate. Immediate cessation of all hostilities, withdrawal to pre-conflict boundaries, acceptance of human oversight in disputed territories, integration into the new communication network being established by Earth. Not conquest, Dr. Noor observed as they reviewed the terms. Control. Earth doesn't want to rule directly, Mara agreed. They want to establish a framework that prevents future conflicts while maintaining species autonomy in local matters. A Terran Concord replacing the Galactic Council, Admiral Kozlov added, with humanity holding veto power over any decision that might threaten stability. The transition happened with remarkable speed. Within months, the new order was taking shape. Earth-designed communication nodes replaced the old network, allowing for faster, more secure transmissions between worlds. Human peacekeeping forces established bases in formerly contested systems, their presence a constant reminder of Earth's new authority. Colonial governments resumed normal functions, now reporting to Earth Central Command rather than managing their affairs independently. 6 months after the intervention, Mara received orders to report to Earth, the first direct communication she had received from her homeworld in nearly 4 years. The journey took less time than she expected, thanks to new propulsion technology that had apparently been developed during the silence. When she arrived, Earth seemed both familiar and utterly transformed. The sprawling megalopolises still dominated the landscape, but now they were interspersed with massive new structures, power generation facilities, communication arrays, defense installations, all built with technology beyond anything publicly available before the silence. At Earth Central Command, a vast complex beneath the North American continent, Mara was escorted to a conference room where 3 people awaited her: Admiral Rajiv Suresh, architect of the Hidden Fleet; Colonel Amir Patel, commander of the ground forces; and Ambassador Elena Volkov, who had delivered Earth's ultimatum to the galaxy. "Commander Ashoka," Admiral Suresh greeted her with a respectful nod. "Your service at Perseus Station was exemplary. You maintained humanity's presence under extremely difficult circumstances, while being kept completely in the dark about Operation Threshold," Mara replied, unable to keep a hint of bitterness from her voice. Ambassador Volkov smiled faintly. "A necessary precaution. Total communication silence was essential to our strategy. Any leak, any hint of our true intentions, would have allowed the Council races to prepare." "You deliberately allowed 3 years of devastating war," Mara stated. "Millions died while Earth prepared its response." Colonel Patel's expression hardened. "We regret every life lost. But the alternative was worse. A galaxy perpetually on the brink of conflict, with Earth constantly intervening in disputes that would reignite the moment we turned our attention elsewhere. We needed to demonstrate 2 truths simultaneously," Admiral Suresh explained. "First, that without human mediation, the Council species would descend into chaos. Second, that humanity possessed the power to impose peace when necessary." "A costly demonstration," Mara observed. "But an effective one," Ambassador Volkov countered. "The new Terran Concord is already functioning more efficiently than the Galactic Council ever did. Species that fought each other for generations are now cooperating under human oversight." "And if they decide to resist that oversight?" Mara asked. Admiral Suresh's expression was grim. "We made our capabilities clear during the intervention. No species wishes to challenge Earth directly, after witnessing what happened to those who resisted our peacekeepers." Mara considered this, uncomfortable with the implicit threat, but unable to deny its effectiveness. "What happens now?" "Now," Ambassador Volkov said, "we build a lasting peace, one secured by humanity's demonstrated willingness to act decisively when necessary, but maintained primarily through cooperation and mutual benefit." "And you want me to be part of this new order?" Mara surmised. Admiral Suresh nodded. "Your experience at Perseus, managing interspecies communications during the silence, is invaluable. We're establishing a new position, Admiral of Communications, to oversee the implementation of the quantum network throughout conquered space. The position is yours, if you accept," Ambassador Volkov added. Mara took a moment to consider the offer. Her feelings about Operation Threshold remained complex. Admiration for its audacious scope mixed with moral discomfort at its methods. Yet, she couldn't deny the results. For the first time in generations, true peace seemed possible across the galaxy. "I accept," she said finally. "On one condition. I want complete access to the strategic planning documents for Operation Threshold. I need to understand exactly how this decision was made, what alternatives were considered, and what measures were taken to minimize civilian casualties during the 3-year silence." The 3 Earth leaders exchanged glances. Then Admiral Suresh nodded. "Granted. You'll have clearance for the complete archive." In the months that followed, Mara immersed herself in establishing the new communications network while studying the history of Operation Threshold. The plan had originated nearly a decade before implementation, conceived by a small group of military and political strategists who recognized the fundamental instability of the Council system. Earth's role as perpetual mediator was unsustainable. Yet the alternative, allowing interspecies conflicts to escalate unchecked, was unacceptable. The solution they devised was as elegant as it was ruthless. Demonstrate humanity's indispensability by withdrawing completely. Allow the inevitable conflicts to develop to the point where all parties were exhausted and vulnerable. then intervene with overwhelming force to establish a new order with humanity at its center. Throughout the 3-year silence, Earth and its closest colonies had focused entirely on military and technological development. The massive energy signatures detected by Dr. Noor had been the power requirements for constructing the quantum communication network, the advanced fleet, and the weapon systems that had so easily neutralized alien resistance. 1 year after the intervention, Mara stood on the observation deck of the new conquered headquarters on Luna, watching Earth rotate slowly below. The blue-green planet seemed peaceful from this distance, giving no hint of the staggering military power it now commanded or the billions of lives affected by its decisions. Dr. Aisha Noor joined her at the viewport, her iridescent skin reflecting the Earthlight. The Calarian scientist had accepted a position as chief liaison between Earth and the non-human members of the Conquered, her early warnings about Earth's energy signatures having earned her respect among human leadership. "Admiral Ashoka," she greeted Mara, acknowledging her new rank. "The Borellian representatives have accepted the terms for integrating their communication systems with the quantum network, the last major species to do so." "Good," Mara replied. "Universal adoption is essential for the network's effectiveness." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, both contemplating the view. "Do you ever question it?" Dr. Noor asked finally. "The morality of what Earth did?" Mara considered the question carefully. "Every day," she admitted. "We allowed suffering we could have prevented. We calculated that the long-term benefits of the new order outweighed the short-term costs." "A cold equation," the Calarian observed. "Yes," Mara agreed. "But one made with the goal of preventing greater suffering in the future. The old system was failing. The Council was paralyzed by procedure and ancient rivalries. Someone had to break the cycle." "Through silence," Dr. Noor mused. "The opposite of humanity's traditional approach." Mara nodded, remembering the endless chatter that had once defined human presence in the galaxy. "We talked constantly, but said little of consequence. Now we speak rarely, but with absolute authority." She turned from the viewport to face her colleague directly. "The Conquered will be different from the Council. Earth won't just mediate disputes. We'll prevent them from arising, not through constant negotiation, but through systems designed for stability and the understood consequences of disrupting that stability." "Peace through power," Dr. Noor said softly. "Peace through whatever means necessary," Mara corrected. "Power is merely the tool that made it possible." As they left the observation deck, Mara's communication implant chimed softly. A message from Earth Central, notifying her of a minor border dispute developing in a distant sector. Nothing serious yet, but potentially destabilizing if left unaddressed. In the old days, Earth would have sent diplomats, opened negotiations, started the endless cycle of talk that rarely resolved the underlying issues. Now, a single message would suffice, a reminder of what happened the last time the galaxy ignored humanity's voice. Earth had been silent once. The Galactic Council should have feared that silence. The Terran Concord never would. As Admiral of Communications, Mara Ashoka had learned the most powerful lesson of Operation Threshold. Sometimes, the absence of noise reveals the true nature of power. And in the vacuum created by Earth's silence, a new galactic order had been born, one that would ensure humanity's voice, however rarely heard, would never again be ignored.